if you care about security. Okay, just making sure I had the right people in the audience. Because if you don't care about it, it's going to be a really boring presentation. So, and this is time up already. I hope that's going to get reset. Anyway, there's three types of customers that we talk to and have different perceptions about cloud and cloud computing and security. One of those is PR. Sorry if anyone from PR is in the audience here, but the idea of PR is you've got to keep out of the news, never be in the news. The CIO or the CSO says, you know, let's make sure we preserve the confidentiality and the integrity and availability of the data. And then the third is the CEO or the head of the government agency, and what they care about is protecting either their shareholder value or the trust of the citizens in the country. So security has always been our number one priority at Amazon Web Services. Cloud services is all that we do, and if we don't get security right, then we don't have a business, because without security you can't do cloud services. So whether and it's not just about the software or the hardware, but it's about the people and the processes and the systems and the network and the physical infrastructure itself. It's everything. But you have to go beyond what you do, and you have to be validated by third-party experts, and you have to make sure that you comply with the requirements of your customers. And you have to make sure that the investment that you make benefits everybody, not just one particular customer. So these are the things that we think about. So comprehensive, secure capabilities to support virtually any workload that anyone would want to put up on the cloud. So I heard from our friend from Thailand talking about baby steps getting onto the cloud. You know, when you start having a broad range of capabilities, everyone's going to do all sorts of things on the cloud, and they want to make sure, regardless of what they do, that that is secure. Security is shared. What does that mean? Well, I have a lot of customers who actually say to me, if I put a website on Amazon Web Services, will it be safe? Or will people be able to hack me? And the answer I give is, it depends, because it's actually a shared responsibility. What needs to be done to keep an environment safe? Well, we do a lot of things, but our customers also have things to do as well. And this is a very important point to make. It's the same as if you go out and you buy a server and some networking equipment and you put it in a rack in your own organization. You still have to build things securely. If you just plug it into the internet and leave things open, it's not going to be secure at all. So it's a complicated chart, but I hope that this helps you to understand that Amazon Web Services provides the foundation services for the cloud. We have the responsibility for the security of that cloud, and we will invest a huge amount of money and a huge amount of time to make sure that every element of that cloud is secure. The global infrastructure, in other words, the data centers that we have around the world, we have to have a very comprehensive way of securing the regions, the availability zones, and the edge locations. The foundation services of cloud, which is compute, storage, database, and networking. We have to make sure that every one of those components is secure, regardless of what you do. But on top of that, our customers are going to need to configure things properly. Their network, their protection from both the client and the server, the operating system that they use, because they can bring their own operating system if they want, the applications, the identity management. You have to make sure that you have, you know, safe passwords, etc., for accessing the applications. And then the content that you put on there, you want to make sure that the security is appropriate for the type of content that you put on the cloud. So I'm going to go through each of these issues, but at the end of the day, we will do a lot of the heavy lifting that you as an organization would normally need to do in your own organization. We'll do that for you, but it doesn't mean that we can do everything. You have your own responsibilities in terms of securing the applications, but we make it easy. So let me tell you how we make it easy. The first is every customer has access to the same security capabilities. It doesn't matter whether you're a one-person startup that wants to build a mobile application, or whether you're the largest bank or largest government organisation in the world. Everyone has access to exactly the same security capabilities. And you can require what is most appropriate for your business. If you're just building a public website with public information, you don't need all sorts of encryption and everything. But if you're building something more secure, then you will need those capabilities. We say there's 3 areas that we offer more. The first is in the area of visibility. What is actually going on? What can I see about my network and my infrastructure? Auditability. How do I know what's going on? What has happened in the past? What happened? What made my website slow down? What made it stop? What made my application misbehave? Being able to go back and look at what happened. And control. How do you control the access that your customers have, or that your people inside your organisation have, to the applications that you're hosting on the website? So more visibility is clearly important. In your own organisations today, do you think you have the ability even to go and map your network, the network that you have with your servers, with your clients? Can you go and do that today? What is actually in your environment today? Have you got a very good stock take of everything that's in your environment? Or does it look something like this? And if it does look something like this, what if you could see your entire network at the click of a button? So you click a button and something like this happens. And this is what you get with Amazon Web Services. You get a very fine level of granular control so that you know exactly what you have. You know about all your networking components, all your compute resources, all your storage, all your networking, everything. You know everything, and you have visibility into everything. It's not hidden away. So the tools give you access to everything that you use. We have a tool called Trusted Advisor, which has 4 really powerful capabilities. Every customer has this. The first is something that I think is important to everyone, unless you're doing it for free, as our the previous speaker said, but cost optimizing. What can you do to actually run your application more cheaply? Have you got the optimum configuration? How about on the security side of things? Have you got any open holes? Have you got ports open? Have you got things configured in a way so that it's actually secure? What about fault tolerance? If one of your servers goes down, will your application still continue to work? And what about performance? Is it actually configured with the right amount of compute, the right amount of memory, so that everything will perform when the workload starts increasing on that environment? So this is a tool that's available for everyone that uses Amazon Web Services. An example would be under security. You run this tool and it will tell you specific ports are unrestricted. Anything can go in and out of those ports. If you know anything about networking, this is how a lot of hackers get into applications, through these open ports. So you can do that. Security groups is a way that you define who has access to your applications, and you can define policies about what they can do. And if you have unrestricted access for anyone other than the top level administrator, then you've potentially got security problems where people can get in and look at information they shouldn't be looking at. Can you do this on your systems today? IAM, which is Identity and Access Management. Are you using that to really set up your environment with the right credentials, the right level of restrictions on people so that they actually get to access what they should be accessing? Bucket permissions for the storage, S3, simple storage service. What sort of permissions do you have in terms of, a granular way of accessing the data? And MFA, which is multi-factor authentication. Do you have multi-factor authentication on your root access, which is the key to get into everything? So this is just an example from this control environment that every customer has. So what about if things aren't going well or things have gone really badly? How do you find out what caused that to happen? It's called auditability. So we build everything on a constantly improving security baseline. And that's made up of a whole lot of security standards across the world. And most recently, Amazon Web Services was made compliant with MTCS, the Singapore Standard 584, which is multi-tier cloud security. It defines different levels of security. IRAP is in Australia, But whether it's FIPS or ITAR, I heard health mentioned earlier, so HIPAA, ISO 27001, and this is constantly improving. So unlike a lot of infrastructure where you go and you check it and everything's okay, you put a tick in the box and you move on, we're improving this all the time, making it better and better and better and better. And because we have global infrastructure all around the world, we have the opportunity to invest hundreds of millions of dollars into security to make sure that the environment's secure. Consistent, regular, exhaustive third-party evaluation. Third-party evaluation, we don't assess this ourselves. We have independent assessors that go and measure us against every one of these things. When we got MTCS, it was measured by an independent certifying authority. So I assume you've heard a bit about this, but this is the MultiTier cloud security standard that is Singapore's security standard. We've now become the first global cloud service provider to achieve this standard, level 3 certification. MultiTier Cloud Security Singapore standard was actually launched in Singapore to businesses with greater clarity of the levels of security they need, dependent by the different workloads that they have, and it's for cloud service providers. Adherence to the standard is voluntary unless you're a government agency, in which case it becomes mandatory. And MTCS Level 3 gives organisations the clarity to use Amazon Web Services to host and process their highly confidential data in Singapore. And we've been certified for this with an independent certifying authority. The important thing about this is that it really builds on the global standard called ISO 27001, which is the global standard for security in the cloud. MTCS builds on top of that and provides added clarity in terms of what level of data, what confidentiality do you have in the data that you're using, and therefore what security do you need. So it's a multi-tier cloud security standard. On top of that, you've got government, healthcare and life sciences, and finance that will all adopt or inherit this cloud standard so that they can actually build on top of that with any additional requirements they have. So you can imagine in the health and life sciences, they may want to adopt HIPAA type requirements and add on top of MTCS, same in government, same in finance. So that's multi-tier cloud security. CloudTrail allows you to actually use these auditing capabilities, allows you to look at the tools, and every time a call is made, whether it be by a program or a person, into one of the growing set of services that Amazon Web Services has, whether it's our compute, our big data analysis, our virtual private cloud, or our relational database services, large set of services, any calls that go into there through the APIs, we have CloudTrail continuously recording all of that information going in and out, generating reports for the administrators so that they know exactly who did what when. So when something goes wrong, you can just go back in the log and you can say, Sue deleted something at 2:40 p.m. Who did it? Sue did it. The trail says Sue did it. So that's what CloudTrail does for you. Security analysis, using log files as input into log management and analysis solutions, and there's a lot of third-party solutions available to do this. Tracking changes to resources, troubleshooting operational issues that you have with the infrastructure, and as a compliance and audit aid when you actually go about certifying against these standards. Monitoring everything with CloudWatch logs. We've got CloudWatch metrics and we've got CloudWatch alarms so that you can configure all of this to let you know when something's going wrong before it becomes a problem as well. You don't have to wait for an issue. You may set some logs, some alarms to tell you when something's about to become a problem. Everyone wants more control of everything in their life, and particularly when it's in the cloud. And you have to have defense in depth. What does that mean? Well, there's actually multiple layers of security that you need. The data is at the center, the furthest away from everything. And on the outside of that is the system security that the infrastructure provides. And then the network around that, and how is that network configured and accessible. And then the physical security of the data centers themselves. Do people know where the data center is, where your workload is running and where your data is stored? Do they know, does the server have your name on it? Does it have a big arrow saying, come and get me? You know, that's the physical access of the data center. So we deliver more control and granularity than I would say pretty much any organization can do internally, because of the ability that we have to invest into this environment. So a set of services on the side here, but you can see defense in depth, rapid scale for security, automated checks, fine-grained access control. Choose what's right for your business needs. I'm just giving you an idea that there's a lot of options available for you. When you store data on a hard drive or a solid state drive or in memory, you should be concerned about what happens when you go away, when you take your information off the cloud. Does all that information still sit on that spinning hard drive or still sit in some non-volatile RAM? Nothing leaves our data centers that has had customer data on it until it looks like this. We've got these very, very large shredding machines that you can take a big hard drive and put it into, and it ends up like this. And this is the only way to be 100% sure that your data is secure. So this is an example of the lengths that we can go to as a global cloud service provider to make sure that your data is never going to be put into the wrong hands. More control of your network. We have a concept called virtual private cloud. Everyone thinks you put something on the cloud and anyone on the internet can get access to it. But that's not true. We can provide a logically isolated section of the Amazon Web Services cloud. You can choose your own private IP range for that cloud so that it matches the IP addresses of your organization's existing infrastructure, and you can segment that into subnets to deploy your compute instances, so you can define at a network level who has access to what. And then network security will prevent things like spoofing and other common layer 2 attacks into that environment. You can't sniff anything but your own host. You can't go and sniff other hosts outside, and you control all the external routing and connectivity. You can be completely isolated from the public internet as we know it. So as an example of that, within your own AWS environment, you may have digital websites, you may do development and test, you may have big data analytics, you may have enterprise applications, and you've got your own on-premise environment as well, your own servers, your own data center. You can connect those two together in a completely isolated way, either through what we call Direct Connect, which is a dedicated fiber connection between your AWS environment and your on-premise environment, or through VPN. So using VPN to actually tunnel through the internet, but it still remains a private connection, completely isolated from the public internet, completely isolated so in a way that the IP address range is directly connected into your own on-premise environment. And you can build solutions that can absorb attacks from the outside and can scale out so that the system does not become overwhelmed if a lot of people all of a sudden start targeting your web environment. Customers, distributed attackers, customers, all accessing your environment, and you want to be able to differentiate between those different users and make sure that your real customers still have access to your infrastructure, but the people who are doing the distributed attacks don't get access to it. So we have the ability to isolate, we have the ability to distribute, we have the ability to auto-scale so that the environment continues to be available. More control of your data. Your data actually will stay where you put it. So if you look at the fact that we have services in regions across the world, 11 Amazon Web Service regions or data center locations around the world, 28 availability zones, so that there's multiple availability zones in each region so that you can guarantee availability, and 52 edge locations, which give you the ability to distribute your content to be close to your customers or your constituents. But that doesn't mean that your data will be anywhere in this environment. In fact, if you choose to put your data on the Singapore region, it will stay onshore in Singapore if you need it to be there. It will never go anywhere else because it will stay where you put it. And in the Singapore region, there are 2 availability zones. Completely isolated data centers that are physically separated so that if an aeroplane falls on one data center, your application continues to run. And then you can encrypt all of your data as well. You can choose automated, where we'll do the encryption for you. You can choose enabled, which means that the user will manage the encryption using Amazon Web Services, or you can have client-side, where you manage the encryption in your own way. You choose how you want to do the encryption. Multiple options. And encryption keys can remain yours and can be managed by you. Amazon Web Service has no access to these, and for compliance reasons, you can actually comply with the stringent regulatory environment to have a contractual requirement of key protection so that we can store that in HSM for you. So a lot of different options. Control who can do what with your account, opportunity to have permission set at the per user level, what they can do and how they can do things. And you get all of that in development, in testing, and in production. You get it across everything that you do. Thank you.